All right, so I just wanted to give you guys kind of a brief outline on what you're going to be getting with these groups, and then also my rationale behind how I kind of came up with it and the why. So, what you're going to be getting is essentially a weekly program update for either hitting, lifting, or speed, or multiple combinations, whatever you end up signing up for. So, my reason behind this is I understand that not everyone can do or has the finances for the full remote training option. That's obviously going to be most beneficial. We can get very specific, get very individualized with the issues that you're having. But again, I understand that not everyone can do that. And what we can actually do is by cycling through all these different variables that I consider, which I'll talk about a little bit later, you can probably get right around 80% of what you're going to get out of that remote training option, the full on remote training option, with being in these groups here. So I'll explain a little bit. Essentially, how I look at hitting, how I look at lifting, how I look at speed is a collection of variables that you're putting together in a training program, and just each of these variables are focused on specific things depending on what the athlete needs or what the person needs. So let's say, for example, for hitting first, we're going to be looking at swing deficiencies. We're going to be looking at how they respond to competition stress, velo stress, all these different factors, right? And essentially, you can kind of put all these different factors into a bowl. And when I'm training remote athletes, I can be specific with kind of where I or what I choose to focus on with them, what we choose to focus on together. But even with that, we're still going to cycle through all these different variables, right? We're going to work on their swing. We're going to work on them in a competitive environment. We're going to work them against velo. It's just we'll do some a little bit more than others, just depending on what they need. Now, what I'll be doing in these groups is I'm still going to be going through all of those. So I'm going to be working on swing deficiencies. I'm going to be working on competition stress. I'm going to be putting velo stress in there as well. All these same variables, and that's not all of them, but all these same variables that I consider when working with full-on remote athletes, I'm still going to be putting in here and including in the program. And these are going to be cycled through. So, like, let's say in a week, you might be doing one day on swing deficiencies. You might be doing one day on the competition. You might be doing one day against velo, right? We're still going to be hitting all of those targeted areas. It just won't be super specific to what we might find if you were doing a full on remote athlete training session. So, but kind of the cool thing with that is over the long term, it's pretty inevitable that you get better at these different things, and that overall as a hitter or as um, a player, a lifter, your speed, kind of whatever you're doing, is going to get better over time. So, just for another example, for lifting, some things that I look for are activation patterns, being able to accept force, being able to produce force, right? And then being able to do that through all movements and all different joint ranges of motion. So, yes, I'm going to evaluate an athlete or a person when I get them in remote training, and I'm going to kind of give them specific stuff. But again, with those athletes, I'm going to be cycling through all these different variables. So what you're going to be getting here in this group is all those same variables cycled through. So it may take a little bit longer to address your issues, but over time we will hit all those issues, and then over the long term you're going to make a lot of progress. Even though you're not getting that initial kind of evaluation. And then finally, with the speed, some things that I look at are top speed, acceleration, and then also how how that translates to when you have to perceive things. So again, same thing. We're going to be hitting all those variables and then cycling through. So the reason that this kind of works is the ultimate goal of training. The whole point of training is to provide a stress to your system and avoid accommodation. Louis Simmons, the founder of Westside Barbell, talks about this a lot. He's built a great system around it. Now I don't use his specific system. I just take from him this idea that we need to avoid accommodation. So by hitting all these different variables and then cycling through them each week, weekly or maybe every 2 weeks, we're going to be able to avoid that accommodation. And that is the most important aspect of training. For instance, at Westside, they might do a type of squat every week. So every week they're hitting that movement, they're hitting that squat, but a different variation. So they might go low bar squat, they might go high bar squat, off a box, off a higher box, with bands, with chains, whatever the case may be, right? And really, we can extrapolate that onto more than just squatting, more than just lifting. And if we look at it as a skill as a whole, all we're trying to do is take that kind of bird's eye view of the skill that we're trying to improve, whether it be hitting, lifting, or speed. And then we're trying to take all different variables, all different movements that are within that variable, and then we're trying to add variation to week so that we can continue progressing and never actually hit that accommodation. So that's essentially what we'll be doing in these groups. So to finish, I just wanted to give you guys a quick look at what they're actually going to look like. So when you sign up, you get an email that has a link that will give you access to these documents. So this is what the hitting log looks like. So how it'll work is down here. Each week I'll create a new tab and I'll put that new tab all the way to the left so that you have instant access. But then also to the right, you'll be able to see previous weeks. So you'll be able to see week 1, 2, 3, 4, kind of whatever week you're on. You'll be able to see that to the right, as well as the current hitting log that I have made for that current week. And so over time, you'll be able to see kind of those updates week to week. So we'll do that for the hitting log here. We'll do that for the lifting log, which is here as well, right? And then we'll also do that for the speed log here. For whichever one you sign up for, or again, if you sign up for a combination, you'll be able to see kind of the update each week and then see the history of what you've been doing in the past as well.